I very much appreciate Chairman Matt Strawn for joining us, and we'll let him give his talk before we take questions.
Sounds good. Thank you. Yeah, at least Sue already knows who her candidate is, so she's one up on me. You know, and I hope this is, good evidence of really how we do things in Iowa. It isn't just professionally conducting the caucuses. It isn't the fact that we're willing to turn out on a early morning to talk about how we're going to influence the process, but it's the fact that I think we're Iowans first and we're partisans second, is what you see from Sue and I, and that permeates our entire teams and our entire organizations because, really, trust me, I have to spend a lot of time nationally, whether it's on television or whether it's at the RNC, defending why it is, that Iowans get this special privilege that 48 other states, save New Hampshire, would love to have. But I will tell you one story. I've got a lot of great arguments as to why we get this opportunity. I like to say that, we're smart people, we're well educated, we're a discerning voter, we're not starstruck. I mean, if there's a senator, a CEO, a congressman, a governor, we're going to look him in the eye, we're going to ask him a tough question. If we don't get an honest answer, we're going to hit him right back. But then just the other day, I was coming through the airport, and I got an even better argument. In one of the windows in one of those novelty shops was a t-shirt, and it said, "Iowans, the few, the proud, the extremely attractive." So that's the best argument I had, something I could come up with. But it is an incredible and awesome privilege that we have to have the first in the nation caucuses, and it's something that I know our legacy is something that we inherit, and we want to make sure that we pass it on to our successors as well, especially at a time when, whether it's the president or whether it's the Congress, a lot of Americans are really feeling out of touch with the government we have in Washington. And the fact that we have places like Iowa and New Hampshire that start the process that not only expect but demand whoever wants to be the leader of the free world actually comes here and looks us in the eye and gives us a chance to engage, and they can't hide behind 30-second TV ads. That's the best way we can start reconnecting the citizens of this country with their government again, whether you're Republican or Democrat. Now, of course, all the action happens to be on our side this time. And as you've probably read in the paper, seen on TV, there's still a little consternation over exactly when we will caucus. I think it's vitally important that we start this process in January. I think it serves the candidates better. I think it serves the voters well. I've got 3 little kids at home. I don't want to be going to caucus and playing Santa Claus at the same time. I don't think most Iowans want that either. So one thing that Sue and I work very closely on is not only make sure that we stay first, but we make sure that there's some sanity in the schedule so we can get this thing to start hopefully in January. Now, obviously, that ramps up the timetable for y'all a little bit because originally we were planning February 6th. But I think it's something we can turn around in those 1,700 precincts across the state. Let me talk a little bit about our process and then turn it over to any questions you may have. Our process is similar but a little bit different, and really the only difference is on the voting aspect. Similarly, when you walk into your Republican caucus, and this is too basic, I apologize in advance, but walk in, make sure you're a registered Republican. If you're not, we are more than happy to take your party registration that night to be a Republican and hopefully stay that way for the rest of your voting life. It can happen. It's my opportunity to bring people in. So we'll check you in, and I'll use my precinct up in Ankeny. I'm up in Ankeny 10, on the southwest side of town. You get checked in, and then actually there's surrogates there. You can actually have candidates there. Some of the precincts are large enough to have candidates there. And, give a speech. Give a 3 5-minute speech to make the pitch on behalf of your preferred candidate. And then after that's done, you move to the presidential preference portion of the evening. And in Ankeny, we honestly have a red, white, and blue sequin shoebox that makes its way around the room, and everyone has a slip of paper in their hand. And you write the surname of your chosen candidate on the piece of paper. And in the back of the room, it's counted there in front of representatives from each of the campaigns if they choose to have someone watch, and then that total is reported to the room, and then it's called into Republican headquarters, where the 1,700 some odd precincts are all tabulated and aggregated because we don't have the preference viability system that the Democrats do. Ours is just a strict aggregation of vote totals from 1,700 plus precincts around the state, and then we report those percentages. After the presidential preference portion, then we get into the organizing business of the party. We talk about electing precinct committee people, which actually gets in the weeds a little bit. But these can become very, very important positions. And oftentimes, some of the folks that even sign up for the precinct committee positions don't realize the responsibilities they may have. For example, Sue and I are both pitched in a battle over in Lynn County and Marion over a special Senate election. Well, when you have a legislative vacancy, it isn't a primary that determines who your party nominee is in those races. But the people that actually vote are your precinct committee people. So those people that put their name on a line, this would have happened to be in January of 2010, were actually the electors in choosing who the Republican nominee was in the Senate special election just a few weeks ago. So there is, fairly important responsibilities that come with these committee positions. And then after that voting is done, we go to the platform discussion where we consider resolutions. And one thing we have at the Republican Party, we've got the opportunity to, in our county packets that we send out to the packets, for organizations, to include resolutions and things of that nature to get you connected with our party leaders who will be organizing in all of our 99 counties. Some counties have a central location. For example, and I don't think they're going to do this, so I'll use it as an example. In Blackhawk County, for example, you could have the entire county come to the Unidome, listen to the speeches, but when it comes to time to actually vote, then you separate into your precincts. I know sometimes in high schools, everybody comes together for the speeches, but then when it comes time to actually do the voting and the precinct work, one precinct's in the lunchroom, another one's in the third grade room, and so on and so forth. So stay tuned for that. We will probably be announcing precinct locations probably mid-November. I'm optimistic we can get that done by then, but it is a heavy lift, and that's why we're kind of in a rush to get the caucus dates set, because it isn't a statewide primary. I think that's one thing people outside of Iowa don't understand about our process. We actually have to pay for it. Tax dollars aren't used to actually put this election on. There isn't a printed ballot. I love those candidates early in the process that call and ask about what the filing deadline is to get on the ballot. It's like, you've never been to Iowa before, okay? But it's a cool process. And there's no other place where people get this kind of opportunity to interact with someone who wants to be the leader of the free world. And don't think that you don't have an opportunity to get your issue in front of them as well. If you've been to these town hall meetings that our candidates have, or both candidates or both sides had in 2008, there's all sorts of organizations that are trying to get their issue in front of who's going to be the next president of the United States. And it isn't something we should take for granted. And I do hope that we continue to have historic high turnout. 2008, both the Republicans and Democrats had the highest caucus turnout they've ever had. And when I need to advocate why Iowa should remain first at the RNC, that's the strongest argument I have. And it isn't just the turnout, but it's how serious we take. And in fact, I was having a cup of coffee just yesterday, and it happened to be with a national reporter from a news network, a national broadcast network. And she was commenting how over the weekend, her and a friend were just having a glass of wine downtown, and on each side of them, they were overhearing conversations about the caucuses and presidential candidates. And her comment, as someone from Washington, D.C. said, that's just something you don't hear any place else in the universe other than Iowa. And I think it's something that's pretty cool. So just thanks for being involved. Anything we can do to assist in helping you get your message out, be happy to do so.